Welcome to Points of View with San Francisco Ballet. This episode will explore San Francisco Ballet's production of Romeo and Juliet, choreographed by Helgi Tomasson to Prokofiev's celebrated score, which runs from April 21st through 30th at the San Francisco War Memorial Opera House. This production of Romeo and Juliet was created by former artistic director and principal choreographer Helgi Tomasson and premiered in 1994. In 2015, it was filmed in front of a live audience in the San Francisco War Memorial Opera House as part of Lincoln Center at the Movies' Great American Dance, with a performance that the Huffington Post described that, quote, lifts Shakespeare's complex and familiar language off the gilded pages and translates it into lucid classical choreography that is visceral, fresh, and ultimately sublime, end quote. This Points of View will be moderated by Claire Sheridan. Claire established the dance program at St. Mary's College of California and is the founder of LEAP, the National Bachelor of Arts program specifically designed for professional dancers. She also has extensive experience as a teacher and choreographer in Europe, Russia, and Asia, including England's Cambridge University and the National Institute of Advanced Studies in India. She has been a dance educator for San Francisco Ballet since 2007. And now I'm thrilled to welcome our guest, Principal Dancer Nikisha Fogo. Nikisha was born in Stockholm, Sweden, and danced with Vienna State Ballet before joining San Francisco Ballet as a principal dancer in 2020. This month, Nikisha will be making her debut as Juliet in Helgi Tomasson's production of Romeo and Juliet. And now let's hear their points of view.
Thanks, Jasmine. Yes, folks, today we'll be taking a look at Romeo and Juliet, and we have a superbly qualified guest who has offered to share with us her personal perspective about this ballet. But first, to set the stage in our minds, I thought I'd quickly review the plot with some images from the ballet. These photos feature various Romeo and Juliet casts at San Francisco Ballet. The story takes place sometime around the 14th century in the town of Verona, Italy. Act 1. The curtains open to reveal a piazza, a town square, where a street fight breaks out as a result of the ongoing feud between two families, the Capulets and the Montagues. They hate each other. This violent brawl brings on the Prince of Verona, who announces no more fighting or else. As Act 1 continues, we meet other key characters in the ballet. Here we have 13-year-old Juliet Capulet and her nurse. Juliet is excited about the ball that her parents are hosting tonight. We also meet Romeo, a Montague, and his friends Mercutio and Benvolio. These three guys decide to crash Lord and Lady Capulet's party. Here's Paris, the guy that Juliet's parents would like her to marry. He's dancing with Juliet at the ball. But Juliet meets someone else there. It's Romeo, and there's instant attraction. Sparks are flying. This really annoys Tybalt, Juliet's cousin. He recognizes Romeo as a Montague, definitely an uninvited guest. After the ball, Juliet wanders out on her balcony dreaming of Romeo, who then enters the garden looking for her. They meet, they dance, and Romeo and Juliet declare their love for one another, despite being from warring families. Act 2. It's the next day, back in the town square. The nurse comes in search of Romeo with a note from Juliet, who proposes a secret wedding. Romeo is to meet his beloved at the chapel, and Friar Lawrence will perform the ceremony. And that's just what happens. Romeo and Juliet get married. Then it's back to the town square, but another street fight erupts. And even though Romeo tries to be peacemaker, Tybalt kills Romeo's friend Mercutio. An enraged Romeo then kills Tybalt. So Romeo has just murdered his new wife's cousin. In despair, he runs off to find Juliet. Act 3. The newlyweds awaken in Juliet's bed, but Romeo must leave. He's been banished from the town of Verona. After Romeo departs, Juliet's parents come in with Paris. Their plans to have him marry Juliet are moving ahead. Of course, Juliet is beside herself because she is already secretly married to Romeo. So, in a panic, Juliet goes to Friar Lawrence, and he comes up with a way to deal with this disaster. Here's the plan. Friar Lawrence will give Juliet a potion to drink that will induce a sleep so deep that she will appear to be dead. But he will get word to Romeo that Juliet is still alive. Then Romeo can come for her and they will flee Verona together. But the plan tragically fails, and a pair of star-crossed lovers take their life. Our guest today is a key player in bringing this profound and timeless story to the Opera House stage. And here she is looking radiant as the Sugar Plum Fairy in The Nutcracker. In Romeo and Juliet, she plays the role of Juliet. So, hello, Nikisha, and welcome. Thank you for joining us. You're in the middle of all these rehearsals, but I appreciate you taking the time to speak with us today. You are performing the role of Juliet in the ballet Romeo and Juliet, and I was wondering if you've ever performed this role before.
No, I will be debuting in this role, and I'm just so excited because it's such a nice role to dive into, especially acting-wise, and I mean also the dancing, of course.
It's very exciting. Can you tell us about Juliet? I mean, how do you see her?
Well, I see her as a strong young girl. She's I feel like she's very, because she grew up with such, I guess, strict parents, and they're very high up in society. She's very trained and well behaved in the social scene.
Obedient,
but it's really fun to see that despite all that, she's still a kid. She's a child in the beginning, and how she interacts with her nanny, and that's when you really can see her childlike ways. But then in the ballroom scenes or in those types of scenarios, she's brought up with and trained to behave and act a certain way. And throughout the whole ballet, you can really see that she goes from a young girl to now a mature woman, I guess. She has to make a lot of decisions, and I think she's I would say she's very opinionated, and she knows what she wants, and she would have maybe been a great head of the house if it didn't turn out how it did in the end.
Well, do you personally relate to Juliet? Are you like her in any way?
Yeah, so I think diving into a role, it's nice to try to find the similarities within the role, and to maybe see how how my Juliet would be. And it's really interesting to see all the other cast do their interpretation, and maybe see how everyone I guess sees Juliet differently. For me, I think I can really relate that she's quite bubbly, but also at the same time very serious. She's serious when she knows what she wants, and she's gonna go for it. And in that sense, I think I can relate to her. And she's very passionate as well, which I think I'm also sometimes.
And who's your Romeo in this production?
Aaron Robinson.
Well, could you talk a little bit about the character of Romeo?
Yeah, so Romeo, I feel like he's a cheeky lad in a sense that obviously they're from the two rival families, and him and his friends, they kind of crash the party. So he's a bit of a rebel, I would say. And I feel like he's quite free-spirited, I would say. And for Juliet to then meet someone like that, where she's hasn't really experienced anything like it because she's so young, and their first meeting, when they first talk to each other, first she's a bit standoffish because he tries to kiss her hand, and she's used to that, right? I mean, she's in Italy, and I mean, I'm sure she's beautiful, so I'm sure she gets a lot of attention, I guess. So she's first a bit, no, what? No, thank you, but still kind of intrigued. And then he I guess, approached her in a different way, being like more spiritual. And then she's a bit intrigued because she hasn't experienced it in that way before. So it's really nice to kind of see their relationship grow throughout the ballet.
And why they're attracted to one another. Opposites attract.
Yeah, they're opposites, and I guess what you can't have is a little bit more exciting.
Well, how did you prepare for such an iconic role? Did you watch videotapes? Have you studied how other dancers have done this part?
Yeah, so we're very lucky that we have a full archive here of the different ballerinas and that's done this role here in San Francisco. So I've taken a look at how they approach the role, and then I also try to see. I've tried to find other videos of other companies, other ballerinas that done the role, just to see their approach and also to see their acting, because you want to make it, or I want to make it very believable rather than theatrical. So I tried to see in what ways I can do that without it being lost, so that everyone in the audience can see it. I tried to just I listened a little bit to the play, just to kind of get a little bit more depth.
Is there a lot of room for artistic, individual artistic interpretation? Can you make the role your own? I mean, do you feel you have the freedom to kind of vary or differ from what other people have done?
Yeah, I feel like it's important to kind of put your own twist to it, because we're all different, and how someone else is doing it might not resonate with me or not come across as genuine on stage. So I think I always try to put a little bit of my own personality into it, so that it's believable to me when people watch my performance.
The score for Romeo and Juliet was written by Sergei Prokofiev in 1935. And could you please talk about that music from a dancer's point of view? I mean, I can't divorce the music from the ballet. It is so rich, and I understand it has themes that are repeated, and so it has more emotional punch than you would expect. So can you talk about the music a little bit and how it affects your dancing?
Yeah, the music is just so beautiful. When you get to dance to music that just that you really like or find beautiful, it's just something else, because you get into it a little bit more, and there's definitely, it's nice to see the themes of the score. So, for example, it brings back to what's happened before. So later in the ballet, when they have their bedroom scene, when they have to leave each other, there's some moments of when they first met. So you kind of can follow the story by just listening to the music. And it definitely helps with the acting and the dancing in a sense, because it lifts the whole thing. Everything is complementing each other. So
how did you learn to act? I mean, did you study that in school, or how did you learn that skill?
No, so I mean, I feel like with acting, you just have to try it, and I trust that my coaches tell me if I'm doing too much or not enough, and I feel like with acting, you really have to feel it and not try to paste on an emotion or a character. If you really feel the emotions or think about what you're trying to say or have an inner dialogue, it then can read from the outside. So that's what I'm trying to achieve, to have a clear vision first in my head, or in the potion scene, what is she thinking? She's thinking, you know, so like that it can be read from the outside. I hope.
Now, technically, how does the dancing in Romeo and Juliet compare to something like Giselle or Swan Lake?
I would say that in Swan Lake, it's very, it has the 32 fouettes and things like that, which Romeo and Juliet really doesn't. So I would say it's maybe not as technically hard or exhausting in that way, but rather more emotionally exhausting, I guess.
Yes. Is there a scene in the ballet that is most meaningful to you? Like 50, 60 years from now, when you think of that ballet, you know that this moment will come back to you?
I think will probably be the end scene when it's a heartbreaking scene.
Yes.
And I've done it, I've rehearsed it in the studio, and just that kind of gets you emotional. And I can't even imagine how it's going to feel like on stage, because I've never done the role, and with the sets and the costumes and everything that's happened before, I think it's going to be really emotional, and I'm looking forward to that feeling, and I'm sure that's going to be something that I look back at when my career is over, to have been able to feel those emotions on stage. I think it's beautiful.
After a really dramatic ballet, I can imagine one it's an emotional experience. You know, the character has been through this saga, and just to, you know, toot along home and eat dinner and pay your PG&E bill afterwards, it's kind of a shock. How do you decompress after a really demanding role is performed?
Yeah, I normally try to get some alone time, or just sit on the couch and just not think about anything. Just try to just relax and eat good food, and maybe take a bath, and try to take care of my body, because I mean, the next day we do it again. So I have to be ready both emotionally and physically to, I guess, start the journey again.
Now, before a performance, how do you spend your time? Do you have some pre-show rituals you do?
Yeah, I try to just get my energy collected and focus myself. And it starts from the morning. I try to have a big breakfast, and in class I'm focused on very hyper focused on what my body is doing, so that I feel centered when I go on stage. So I don't really have to think about the technique, and just experience the performance. And I try to take a nap, 26 minutes to be exact. I heard that's the optimal nap time, to not feel groggy when you wake up from a nap. So, and when I get to the theater, I really enjoy doing my hair and makeup, because it kind of feels like a meditation, and I'm focusing on that, and my nerves kind of get in check.
Do you give yourself a bar before the performance, or take a class? Or,
yeah, I normally try to warm up as well. Yeah.
You know, the story, it seems like ballet, you know, when you think of the story of Romeo and Juliet, it seems that ballet is the perfect medium, you know, to tell this story. That combination of music and movement, I think, touches parts of the soul that, you know, words can't reach. In preparation for this, I popped in the Romeo and Juliet DVD, and I was looking at it. You know, I've seen a lot of ballets, and I started getting chills watching it. And at the end, I'm like, you know, I've seen this ballet, but it just touches people. So do you have any thoughts about the power of ballet?
Yeah,
Story and reach people.
I think especially with Romeo and Juliet is that a lot of people can maybe relate to the story, or being in love, and maybe not having the happy ending always, you know, or even the thought of not having the happy ending is touching, even if that's not what you've experienced. So I think ballet is a perfect way to kind of combine the story and with the music and this, with movement, because when you feel in your body, you first feel it in your body. And I think that watching other people maybe express those emotions in a way that maybe not everyone can, but you can enjoy it, you can relate to what the dancers are trying to do, or what their artistry is doing and with the steps.
It's important work that you do. You know, you keep us human, and there aren't that many people on the planet that can do what you do. So I just want to thank you for that. And you mentioned some coaches that have been, you know, great help to you, but I heard in another interview that your mom gives you good advice. Have you been able to talk to her about this role, and has she said anything to you?
I haven't really talked to her about the role in specifically, but she always grounds me and gives me good advice. And even if it's just to talk with my mom, I talked with her this morning. It's always a nice way to, before you go into work and having to feel these hard emotions. Because like you said, it can be quite draining.
Yes, yes. Well, I think we're at the 15-minute stage, and so I would like to thank you very much, Nikisha, for this interview and for fitting us in this very busy time in your life. And we want to thank you, and we very much look forward to seeing you on stage.
Thank you. It was lovely talking to you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.